G'day gamers, Ranger Tony here with another Pathfinder Kingmaker build video. So I just did a video on the the Plasma Kinetic Knight build, and I said in there that I've got a special build that I want to show you, which is a variation on the Kinetic Knight, and it's called the Electric Kinetic Swashbuckler build. So I'm going to show you that, and I'll point out where things are a little bit different, and at the end we'll talk about if it's really that much of an advantage and what it gives you. So let's dive on in. It is essentially the same stat build: dexterity of 18, constitution of 16 to give us 6 points of burn, 5 points left. Let's put those all into intelligence to give us one more skill point. We'll do the same again. We'll do magic device and perception so that we can find things, trickery to unlock any traps and chests that we find, and mobility because we're a frontline character and that helps us to move around in combat. Skills. So we are still taking weapon finesse, which is great, but the next thing that we're going to do is very radically shift, and we're going to choose two weapon fighting, because yes, you can dual wield with a kinetic knight, but you cannot wield two kinetic blades. Okay, so there's a slight disadvantage there. The last build we did was a fire build. I'm going to do this one, as I said, as an electric build. So we're going to pick air and electric blast. We're still going to stick with the energy blasts. So if you haven't seen my other video, if you use primarily energy blasts, then you use a touch-based melee attack rather than a normal attack. So you only have to hit their touch-based AC, not their normal AC, and that means you will hit a lot more often. And so that, coupled with the fact that you get multiple attacks per round with a kinetic blade, which eventually is going to do 10d6 worth of damage, means that you're going to do just ridiculous amounts of damage, and you're going to hit a lot because you don't have to get through their armor. Okay, so that is that. We'll call this Kinetic Swashbuckler. And let's go on with the rest of the build. Okay, so level 2 Kineticist, or Kinetic Knight. We are going to go with aerial adaptation, which gives us protection against electricity, so that will be handy. Level 3. We are going to take weapon focus in the kinetic blast, which is what you use with the kinetic blade. And as I mentioned in the other video, don't try and use touch because it doesn't work. It is not the same thing. You want to pick kinetic blast here. So we have that now. We're all set. Level 4. We get our first ability points, so we're going to bump them all into Dex. As I said in the last video, you could bump Constitution, which would give you more burn, but we're not really going to be using burn a lot. Most of the blasts and infusions and stuff that you get, you'll only use occasionally. And you get plenty of magical items that can buff your constitution anyway, so we'll leave it at that for now. We are going to take a bonus feat here and take dodge. So that'll help to protect us a little bit. We're not using the shield like we were previously, so we need to be careful about protecting ourselves a little bit more than we did with the other build. Having said that, what we want to do here, and this is something that I would not normally do, but I'm going to take weapon focus in a second weapon, and I'm going to use dagger here. You have very few options for what weapons you can take, because you actually get a very small number of weapons that you can use as a kinetic knight. I don't even think it lists them here. But it really, dagger is about it. I mean, it's dagger, club, I think maybe light mace, stuff like that. So you may have a different choice that you want to pick, but I'm picking a finessable weapon and something that is easy to get a hold of, that'll be common in the game, and there are a lot of daggers, so that's why I've picked that. Okay, and we're going to take, the only option we can take here is Magnetic Confusion, but that's not too bad because the Magnetic Infusion makes your opponents magnetic so that they are easier to hit with metal weapons, and you've got a dagger as your next weapon, so if you hit with the sword and they're still around, if you hit with the kinetic blade, and they're still around, you'll be better to hit with the dagger that you've got then. So that will work really well. So that's a good option there. Level 6. We're going to take Aerial Evasion, which increases our reflex save, which is great. Level 7. Now, lots of things you can take here. I would not take Fencing Grace, Piranha Strike, any of that sort of stuff. As I said in the previous build video, your Kinetic Blast is going to do all the damage for you. It's going to do a ridiculous amount of damage by the end of the game. Getting 1 or 2 points extra damage here is not worth it. Fencing Grace will only work with your dagger, really, because it's a piercing weapon, and your Kinetic Blade is a slashing. Well, actually, I don't even think it counts as a slashing weapon. It counts as an energy weapon. Piranha Strike, because you're dual wielding, will only give you 1 point of bonus per 4 levels or whatever it is. It's not worth it. So, as I did in the previous build, I'm going to recommend Armor Focus, and again, I'm going to recommend Medium Armor. Medium Armor is a good blend between the heavy and the light. So heavy armor gives you a lot of normal armor class protection, but you don't get very much of your dexterity, so your touch-based AC is very low. I've had characters that had, say, enchanted plate that gave them an armor class of, say, 25, but their touch-based AC was 10 or 11, or maybe 12 if they were lucky. It's a big disparity, but the medium armor is a good in-the-middle range, so it gives you reasonable amounts of AC, normal armor class, but it also allows you to put, 3 or 4 points of dexterity into that as well, making it really nice to keep all of your armor classes as high as possible. I recommend Breastplate as the best armor that gives good protection plus a good amount of dexterity bonus, and if you can find Mithril breastplates, because Mithril armor is even lighter and allows you to put more dexterity bonus on, because you're going to have a high dexterity bonus anyway, that would be the option to go for. So this here just improves your armor for any medium armor that you wear, so I'm going to recommend that. And we also have to pick another element. Unlike my previous build, I'm not going to pick air again straight away. I'm going to say water this time. And the main reason I'm picking water is really good for healing. So we're going to take Cold Blast here. We're not going to be able to do a combined blast yet because the two energies, electricity and cold, don't combine into anything. If I had picked water, electricity and water, I think, do combine into something, but the two, because one's physical and one's energy, but the two separate energy ones don't combine. So we're not going to be able to get, at least I don't think they do. So we're not going to be able to get a combined blast yet. But if we do get a combined blast, no, we don't. So we will get one later, though. So yes, we will. Yes, don't worry, we will. So there we go. We've got that now. Level 8. And we get another point of dexterity here. And we get our first extra attack. So we now have 2 attacks per round. So at this point in time, I believe we're doing 4d6 worth of damage. And so we get 2 attacks to do that. So that's like 0 to 64 points of damage per round. 0 if we miss and 64 if we get 2 hits to do full damage. That's without crits. Crits will blow beyond that, potentially. If you had 2 crits that maxed out their crits, it would be 200 or 300 points of damage. Something ridiculous like that. And then we're going to take the Kinetic Healer here. So there's Kinetic Healing, there's Kinetic Restoration, and there's a few more. We're going to take all of these. This can be used on anyone, which is really nice. So it's quite a useful healing ability, but it uses burn, and you can't offset it. You can't use Gather Power to offset that burn, unfortunately. That's the only disadvantage. I really feel that you should be able to do that in the game, but it doesn't let you. Level 9 now. We're going to take Improved 2-Weapon Fighting. So I said we had 2 attacks per round, but that's not actually true. As soon as we had 2-Weapon Fighting, we had 2 attacks per round, one with our kinetic weapon and one with our dagger. And then our extra attack we got last round meant we had 3 attacks per round. Well, this is now going to get us 4. So we get 2 attacks with our kinetic blade and 2 attacks with the dagger now. And we also get Blade Whirlwind, which allows us to use our kinetic blade to attack everybody within a 10-foot radius, which is nice. Level 10. And we're going to take this one here called Kinetic Restoration. It allows us to remove the damage to our ability scores that you get, when you get poisoned and things like that. And also eliminates fatigue. Great little thing, but only works on you. So, unfortunately, you can't help anyone else recover, but it's great for you to recover. So, we're taking that. Very handy. Wish I had it earlier. If I had have started the build with water, we could have had that way earlier. So, level 11 then. We've got Improved Critical now. I don't recommend taking Hammer the Gap. It is a nice ability if you're just a general thing, but, we have 2 attacks at this point, so the second attack gets a +1 bonus because we've hit once already. That's it. And even at best, we have 3 attacks per round. If the first attack hits, it gets no bonus. If the second attack also hits, it gets a +1 bonus to damage. If the third attack also hits, it gets a +2 to bonus. So it's an extra 3 points of damage across the entire thing when we could be doing hundreds of points of damage. Yeah, not worth it. Instead, we're dual wielding, so we're potentially doing 6 attacks. So if all of those hit, yes, you'd have, 5 factorial, so 9, 13, 15, 16 points of damage extra. That's not too bad. Personally, I don't think it's worth it, though. Let's stick to, we're going to take Improved Critical here for our Kinetic Blast. And then we start getting these infusions. They're all quite good. I'm thinking at this point that the Entangling one is the one that I would want to take first. Because if you can entangle your opponents, and it lasts for 1 minute. Some of them only last for a single round, but 1 minute is 10 rounds. Each round is 6 seconds. So, yeah, that one's a good one. Check for any of them and look at the ones that last for a minute rather than a round, and they're the ones to get first. Level 12. So we get another point to put into our decks here. So that's getting better and better. And we're going to use Healing Burst here. So this allows us to heal everyone around us, which is quite nice. But you do half the normal healing that you would do anyway. But we're getting up there to having quite an amount of damage that we would, or healing that we would normally do. So it's not too bad. We're not going to be the party's... Well, you don't want to be the party's main healer. You might be, depending on your configuration. But, yeah. So, where are we? Level 13. We took Improved Critical last round, so we're going to take Critical Focus now, which allows us to improve our confirmations of our critical hits. And we'll take Chilling Infusion. It only lasts for 1 round. But I feel it's better than the Synaptic Infusion, so we'll take it first. Level 14 Kinetic Knight, then. And at this point, we get Kinetic Revivification, which allows us to revive a dead companion within 2 rounds. So definitely want that. Level 15... Oh, sorry. I missed. We've got our third attack now. So essentially that means we're going to have 5 attacks per round at the moment, but make that 6 because we just took greater 2-weapon focus as well, 2-weapon fighting as well. So we now have 6 attack, 3 with our, and this is the maximum we're ever going to get, but we've got 3 with our kinetic blade, 3 with our dagger. That's if you do a full attack. If you have the ability to do a full round of attack. If you just move and then attack, you get a single attack. We need to pick another element. So at this point, I'm going to recommend taking air again. And in this time, we can't take electric blast because we've already taken it. So we have to take the physical blast. Now, as I said, you don't want to be using the air blade if you can help it because you'll be using a normal AC to a hit. But this gives us the combined blast, so we now get the Thunderstorm Kinetic Blade, which will do significantly more damage than just the Air Blade or the Electric Blade or the Cold Blade that we had previously. And we'll see that in a minute when we finish up and I show you what the sorts of damages it can do. So level 16, we get another point of dexterity. So again, chuck that into dex. 22 plus 6, going great. We're going to take cold adaptation here then, start improving our protection against cold, and then later on we'll take heat adaptation as well. Level 17... and there's not a lot that we can take here. Like, feel free to mix in any other things that you want here. Throw in teamwork feats if there's things that you didn't want to take. I'm going to take lightning reflexes, though. You'll find that your kineticist will be very good at reflex saves because you've already got a number of buffs in there from your wild talents that will buff your reflex saves, but taking this will buff them even more. And then I recommend the pushing infusion over the synaptic infusion. But again, I don't think I really use any of them all that lot. You can see down here, our reflex save is up to plus 18 now, which is nice. Level 18. And we're going to take heat adaptation for our wild talent. So now we've got protection against heat, cold, and electricity, which is great. We're protected against a lot of the elements, a lot of the different types of elemental damage you can see in the game. And the advantage of the setup that we've got here as well is the fact that if we come across someone who is invulnerable to, say, electric damage, we've got the cold damage to back it up, and vice versa. So because we're not just doing all electric damage or all fire damage or whatever, because you've got that mix, it works well. So level 19, we're going to take improved lightning reflexes, which just gives us that little bit of even more of a boost. And the only other thing we can take here is the synaptic infusion, so we'll take that. So we now have a reflex save of 21, which is wonderful. You could have swapped all of those reflex improvements out for will ones if you wanted to, and it would have balanced it a little bit more. You would have had much more sort of probably even. It would have been probably like 14 for everything. Up to you. That was probably the only change I would make to this build, is maybe consider moving those to will saves. Level 20, our final point of ability score, might as well put it into dex. It's not going to do much good anywhere else. But I mean, if you've already got something which bumps you up, say 3 points in constitution, you can get one more and it makes it an even number and it'll bump it up to the next modifier. So consider doing that. It's up to you. And the final thing we're going to take is this wonderful little ability down here called Tidal Wave. Does a mass amount of damage. It's a really good area of effect spell. It's not really a spell, but you know what I mean. And yeah, that is our completed build of an electric kinetic swashbuckler. Let's just see what he looks like with a proper weapon in hand. So hang on a sec. Okay, so I've just quickly bought a Masterwork dagger here. It doesn't give us a lot of extra damage if you look at things. So we have the electric kinetic blade, which does 11 to 61 points of damage. We have 3 attacks per round with it, 3 attacks per round with the dagger. So that means that we are doing 0 to 195, I think it is, if you calculate it. So 61 times 3 plus 12, which is 4 times 3, is 195. That's how many points of damage per round, excluding crits, you could do with that weapon combination, which, that's pretty respectable. If we then switch it out for the Thunderstorm blade instead, we can see here we do 42 to 142 points of damage with the Thunderstorm blade, plus the extra 12 points, 4 points of this. If you add all that up, it's 0 to 438 points of damage before crits. So potentially, but it will cost you 1 point of burn per round to use the Thunderstorm blade. Okay, so that means at this point I've got 6 rounds of combat that I can use that blade before I can't use it anymore. But I could then switch back to a normal kinetic blade, the electric one or the cold one, for example. But that is an insane amount of damage that you're doing there. 438 points of damage, and that's not with crits. If you critted on that, if you had all 6 hits being a crit, I could see that being somewhere in the nature of close to 2,000 points of damage. Your chances that it would happen are so small. What's the advantage here? Well, you've got the extra 3 attacks per round, but they don't do a lot. They're like 12 points of damage from a dagger if they all hit. But a hit is a hit, and that's 3 extra attacks per round. But the other thing that you're getting that you can't do at all with a normal kinetic knight is, because your weapon is incorporeal, you can't have a magic weapon that does something. So just as a complete, just throwaway example here, I can't have a keen kinetic blade. I can't have any blades that have any sort of weird special abilities on them, like this Mother's Warmth here. So this is a kukri, right? Which is keen and flaming. Cannot do that. There are daggers out there that provide you with AC bonuses and all that sort of stuff. You won't be able to use any of that if you're just using a standard, like a chaos shard. Okay, admittedly that's a dagger, so that confuses enemies on a hit. The ability to have that second weapon which can do some of those extra things for you. Some of them will give you protection bonuses. Some of them will do debuffs. Some of them will allow you to cast spells a few times a day. All of that stuff is stuff that you won't be able to do if you're a standard kinetic knight with your blade, because you can't buy a kinetic blade. It's something that you create yourself. Okay? So that's my run on a kinetic swashbuckling build. I don't know that it's that great. I don't think it's that much better than a normal kinetic knight. But as I said, that extra weapon that you're using, it doesn't have to be a dagger too. Look at the weapons that are available to you. There's not many, but you've got that ability. Like if we have a look in here, you can use clubs, you can use daggers. See, that Edict dagger would be brilliant. Look at that. That is a +4 mithril speed dagger. So it is a +4. It gives you an extra attack. It has it gives the opponents -3 penalties to will save for a moment, and it's mithril, so it's even lighter than normal. But you, as a kineticist, the dagger is the main weapon that you can use that is finessable, right? I believe the light mace Yes, so you could use the light mace as well. It's finessable. If you decided to do something different, you could have a light mace as your backup, as your second weapon, and you might be able to find a really nicely enchanted light mace that can do stuff for you. But you'll want to change your weapon focus that you picked at level, what was that, about level 5, and see how that goes. So I hope you enjoyed this build. If you did, please give me a like and share it with your friends. Be sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all of my build videos, and I will see you for the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.